Hello, good afternoon. Again, you are tuning in to the remote public scoping meeting for the Westshore rezoning LSGD proposal. I'm doing a quick audio visual check to make sure our live stream to YouTube is working properly, and we will be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Once again, thank you for joining. Good afternoon and welcome. You are tuning in to the remote public scoping meeting for the West Shore rezoning large scale general development or LSGD proposal. The City Environmental Quality Review or CEQR number for the application is 26DCP012K. My name is Stephanie Shalou, and I am the Director of the New York City Department of City Planning's Environmental Assessment and Review Division, or EARD. Evren Olkar Kajar, Deputy Director of EARD, will co-host today's meeting. And in the event of any technical challenges on my end, Evren will take over as host of this meeting. We appreciate you making time to join us today and appreciate your patience if we do run into any technical difficulties. I'll also emphasize that we'll hear from everyone who wishes to speak today, and the meeting will remain open until everyone has had a chance to speak, has had an opportunity to do so. I'll also note that we welcome written comments through 5 p.m. on Thursday, October 16th, 2025, and we provide written comments with the same attention and consideration as any comments that we hear today at this meeting. We will now proceed to the public scoping meeting, so I'll ask our production team to advance to the next slide. Thank you. We will now proceed to the public scoping meeting. For the record, again, the City Environmental Quality Review, or CEQR application number is 26DCP012K. Today's date is September 16th, 2025, and the time is approximately 2:03 p.m. Next slide. Again, my name is Stephanie Shalou, Director of the Environmental Assessment and Review Division at the New York City Department of City Planning. I'll be chairing today's scoping meeting. The Department of City Planning is acting on behalf of the City Planning Commission as the lead agency for the proposal's environmental review. As the lead agency, the department will be responsible for overseeing the preparation and completion of the proposal's environmental impact statement, or DEIS. Next slide. Joining me today are several of my colleagues from the Department of City Planning. As I mentioned, Evren Olker-Kajar is Deputy Director of the Environmental Assessment and Review Division. Louise Cafiero is the Environmental Assessment and Review Division Project Manager for the project. Emily Bachman is the Project Manager for the proposal's land use application. And also from the Brooklyn office, we are joined by Director Alex Summer, Deputy Director Karenza Wood, and Griffin Mills from the Brooklyn office, as well as Shane Myers from our council's office. We are also joined by several members of DCP working in the background to ensure that this meeting runs smoothly. Many thanks to them. Next slide. Together, we're here to receive your comments on the draft scope of work for the Westshore rezoning LSGD proposal. The draft scope of work identifies the subjects to be analyzed in the upcoming draft environmental impact statement, or DEIS, and describes the methodologies that will be used in those analyses. The draft scope of work materials are posted on the Department of City Planning's ZAP website. Next slide. The purpose of this public scoping meeting is to allow for public participation in the preparation of the draft environmental impact statement at the earliest stage possible in the environmental review process. Specifically, scoping allows the public to help shape the DEIS before it is written. Toward that end, the department, as lead agency, will receive verbal testimony on the draft scope of work today from elected officials, government agencies, those speaking on behalf of the local community board or boards, and members of the general public. As I mentioned, we also welcome written comments on the draft scope of work, and written comments can be submitted through Thursday, October 16th, 2025 by 5 p.m. Next slide. At the end of the written comment period, the department, as the lead agency, will review all comments, those that we hear today, as well as any that we receive in writing. And after carefully reviewing these comments, the department will decide what changes, if any, should be made to the draft scope of work, and we will issue a final scope of work. It's the final scope of work that serves as the basis for preparing the DEIS. Next slide. Today marks the beginning of the written comment period on the draft scope of work. No decisions will be made today regarding the draft scope, but the purpose of today's meeting, again, is to allow the public to provide their comments on the draft scope, to allow the department to listen to those comments, and for all voices to be heard. Next slide. I will now focus on the structure of today's meeting, which is going to be divided into 3 parts. First, the applicant team will make a brief presentation describing the Westshore rezoning LSGD proposal. The applicant team will provide a brief summary of the environmental review's draft scope of work. This presentation will be about 20 minutes. Then during the second part of the meeting, the department will hear testimony from elected officials, government agencies, and those speaking on behalf of the local community board. Then during the third and final part of the meeting, we'll receive testimony from members of the general public. Next slide. A few logistics for today's meeting. If you wish to speak and plan to access the meeting online using a computer, tablet, or smartphone, please remember to register online on the Department of City Planning's website, nyc.gov/planning, and navigate to the top right-hand corner for the calendar page. Then you'll follow the registration instructions for the Westshore rezoning LSGD entry for the public scoping meeting. A link to join us and provide your testimony will be emailed to you after you've completed the registration process on the DCP calendar page, and we will add you to our speakers list in the order in which you registered. Next slide. When it's your turn to speak, your name will be called and you will be promoted to panelist. This will allow you to unmute your microphone and the ability to turn on your camera. There will be a short period that it appears you're no longer in the meeting. Don't be alarmed, you will automatically rejoin the meeting as a panelist. At that time, you will be asked to convey your remarks. To allow us to hear from everyone who wishes to speak, we ask that you limit your remarks to 3 minutes. If you're viewing on the webinar, a 3-minute countdown clock will be shown on the screen. And at the 3-minute mark, your time will expire, at which point you will be asked to conclude your remarks. Please note that promoting and unmuting speakers takes a moment, so please do be patient. Next slide. An additional note of instructions for those of you joining us by phone today. If you wish to provide testimony via telephone, please select *9 when I prompt. Please listen for me to call out the last 3 digits of your phone number, at which point you'll be able to given the temporary ability to share your testimony. Once you're completed with your testimony, you will press *6 to unmute and mute your microphone to provide your testimony. Please note, again, the unmuting speakers takes a moment, so we do appreciate your patience. Next slide. On to time limits. Speakers from the general public have 3 minutes to provide their testimony. However, there are a few exceptions to this 3-minute limit. Elected officials, for example, are given the courtesy of jumping to the front of the queue and are not limited to 3 minutes. To those of you viewing us on live stream and also wishing to testify, please be mindful of potential background noise during your testimony. Make sure that the live stream is muted when you begin in the webinar to avoid hearing an echo. If you are viewing today's presentation but don't wish to provide testimony, you are also able to view this meeting on YouTube on our live stream. Next slide. As I mentioned, we accept written testimony, which can be submitted to us at our mailing address shown here, the Department of City Planning, 120 Broadway, 31st floor, New York, New York, 10271. Attention, myself, Stephanie Shalou. We also have an email address set up for this project where you can email your comments to 26dcp012k_dl@planning.nyc.gov. This information can all be found on the website that I mentioned, nyc.gov/planning, and by navigating to our calendar page. As noted, we will accept comments through Thursday, October 16th, 2025 by 5 p.m. Next slide. If you missed any of the instructions, please do visit our DCP website or the web in order to find support and instructions on how to access today's meeting. At this time, we will now move on to the first part of our meeting where the applicant will present an overview of the proposed project. I will now turn it over to Rachel Skall of the applicant team. Welcome.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Skall. I'm with Cozen O'Connor Land Use Council for Watershore Views, LLC, the applicant for the Westshore rezoning LSGD and mapping action. Next slide, please. We have a large team working on this application, but today I'm joined by Rachel Antelmi, Senior Environmental Planner at VHB, and Jay Valgora, Founder and Principal of Studio V Architecture. Next slide, please. We are here to discuss an application for a proposed development on a peninsula located southwest of the Belt Parkway or Shore Parkway and adjacent to Calvert Box Park in Gravesend, Brooklyn. This is a more than 700 square foot development site made up of blocks 6944, lots 10, 80, 290, 325, 330, 333, 458, 466, and 480. Next slide, please. The development site is less than a 15-minute walk from 2 subway stations and is connected to the surrounding area by multiple bus routes and bike paths from its frontage on the Shore Parkway Service Road. Next slide, please. The site is currently used by the city as a tow pound. Here you see its frontage on the Shore Parkway Service Road. Next slide, please. The site extends southwest from the service road, and here are some views of the interior of the site currently. Next slide, please. And here are some additional views of the interior of the site closer to its terminus at Gravesend Bay. Next slide, please. The peninsula where the development site is currently located is mapped largely with unbuilt streets that are as much as 100 feet wide. One action proposed as part of this application is a city map amendment to right-size these streets and grade them appropriately so that they can be built out and open to the public as part of the proposed project. Next slide, please. One of the biggest challenges in developing this site is the presence of DEC-regulated tidal wetland adjacent areas and coastal erosion hazard areas. Within these areas, development is limited due to requirements for pervious area. Next slide, please. Despite the site's challenges, it presents the opportunity for significant development that includes much needed housing, as well as a significant amount of public open space. To quickly walk through the program summary, as I said, this is a more than 700,000 square foot development site. It's comprised of 3 zoning lots, and we are looking to improve it with 25 buildings. The total proposed zoning square footage is just over 1.5 million square feet, of which 1,478,000 are proposed to be residential floor area, in addition to community facility uses, including a potential school and local retail. The development would include approximately 994 parking spaces and range in height from 42-foot townhomes to a 450-foot tower. We're looking at approximately 1,457 dwelling units, a portion of which would be affordable pursuant to MIH option 1 or 2. And as I said, there's a significant amount of public open space included in this proposal, totaling almost 138,000 square feet. Next slide, please. Here you see an illustrative plan of the proposed development, including its significant green spaces. These green spaces include an entry garden at the intersection of Bay 43rd Street and the Shore Parkway Service Road at Page Right, which would welcome people to the site, while pocket parks located along Bay 43rd Street would lead to an approximately 75,000 square foot waterfront public open space and adjoining public plaza-like area where the site juts out into Gravesend Bay at Page Left. Next slide, please. This would be a phased development beginning in the middle with zoning lot 2, which would contain 2 residential towers, ground floor retail and community facility uses, a parking facility, public open space, and new city streets. The next phase at Page Left would include additional residential towers and local retail, as well as a parking facility and the development site's waterfront public open area. Finally, the final phase on Page Right would include all remaining city streets, public open space, residential townhouses, and the potential school. Next slide, please. In addition to the city map amendment I mentioned earlier, we are seeking a number of zoning actions to facilitate the proposed development, including a rezoning, a text amendment to map mandatory inclusionary housing, bulk and parking special permits, and authorizations and a certification related to the waterfront public access area. And I'll walk through each of these. Next slide, please. The proposed rezoning would rezone an existing C3 district to an R6 district with a C22 commercial overlay, which would be mapped for MIH options 1 and 2. The rezoning would also cover rezone an existing R4 district to an R5 district. By increasing density available on the development site, we can provide much needed housing at a scale that allows for significant resiliency measures, which Jay will speak to in more detail later in this presentation. The proposed rezoning area includes adjacent properties but is not expected to spur additional development of those, as those properties are either largely underwater or are occupied by the Block Institute, a long-established school and residential center for people with special needs. Next slide, please. Next, we are seeking a large-scale general development bulk special permit for various zoning relief, which I will go through by zoning lot. Here on zoning lot 1, we are seeking relief related to height and setback regulations, including waterfront regulations that limit residential footprints and the length of tower walls facing a shoreline. Next slide, please. And here you can see those waivers in section. Next slide, please. On zoning lot 2, we are again seeking relief related to height and setback regulations, as well as regulations related to required open spaces, such as minimum distance between building requirements. Next slide, please. And here you can see some of those waivers again in section. Next slide, please. On zoning lot 3, we are seeking relief again related to required open spaces. Overall, these bulk waivers are largely being sought to allow for mid-density development on this large site, despite DEC regulations that limit available building pads, and to ensure that public open space is provided at regular intervals throughout the development. Next slide, please. We are also seeking a parking special permit to allow an accessory parking facility on zoning lot 1 with more parking spaces than would otherwise be permitted. The development site is in the greater transit zone and therefore has a low parking requirement after the passage of City of Yes. However, the applicant recognizes that many residents here would likely own cars and is therefore seeking this parking special permit. Next slide, please. The final set of actions we are seeking relate to required waterfront public open space. We are seeking to reduce the number of visual corridors required at the development site, which would otherwise make development of zoning lot 1 infeasible. We are seeking to modify location and dimension requirements of waterfront public access areas to account for zoning lot 1's unusual shape. We are seeking to modify certain design requirements within the waterfront public access area related to items such as level of plantings and location of bollards and bike racks. And finally, we are seeking phase development to allow the waterfront public access area to be constructed during phase 2 of overall construction. Next slide, please. The site's waterfront public access area would be approximately 75,000 square feet of landscaped area along zoning lot 1's shoreline and would directly adjoin a plaza-like space between towers 3 and 4, seen here at page left. Additional pocket park style public spaces would be located along intervals along Bay 43rd Street, which is top of page right. Next slide, please. At page left, you see the continuation of those pocket park-like spaces along Bay 43rd Street, leading back to the Shore Parkway service road at page right, where Bay 43rd Street is flanked by 2 larger public open spaces intended to help draw the public. And with that, I'm going to pass to Rachel Antelmi to speak more about the CEQR draft scope.
Thanks, Rachel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Antelmi, and I'm with VHB, the environmental consultant preparing the EIS. The draft scope of work describes the analysis framework for the EIS, as well as the methodologies for the technical areas that will be analyzed. The framework and methodologies are based on the guidelines of the 2021 CEQR Technical Manual. Next slide, please. Consistent with CEQR Technical Manual guidelines, the EIS will analyze the incremental difference between the no action and with action conditions in the analysis year of 2034. For this application, the with action condition considers 2 different scenarios. First, the school scenario, which is reflective of the proposed development that Rachel discussed. This scenario is the applicant's intended development program. The second scenario is the residential scenario. In this scenario, the proposed development would not include the school, and that space would instead be used for additional residential space. This scenario is included to provide a conservative assessment of the proposed actions and to provide flexibility in the case that a school tenant cannot be secured. Next slide, please. One slide back, please. Thank you. You'll see circled in green that the total gross square footage is the same in both with action scenarios, with key differences called out by the yellow arrows. The no action condition is the future condition that would be anticipated on the development site in 2034, absent the proposed actions. In this case, the no action condition would be a smaller scale residential development that would be allowed by the existing zoning. The EIS will analyze the increment between the no action condition and the with action condition. As described in the draft scope of work, each technical category will determine which with action scenario is more conservative, the school scenario or the residential scenario, and use that increment for the analysis, thereby providing the most conservative increment throughout the EIS. The increment will be used to assess the effects of the proposed actions and the potential for significant adverse environmental impacts. Next slide, please. Here's a list of the technical areas that will be studied in the EIS. While all of these will be reviewed in the EIS, I will briefly describe some key areas of analysis. For the transportation chapter, a travel demand analysis will be conducted to determine the number of trips to be created by the project, providing the framework for the transportation analysis. The trip generation projections will be performed for the weekday AM, midday, PM, and Saturday peak periods. Based on the traffic projections, the travel demand analysis will identify intersections along streets to and from the development site that will be analyzed during the peak hours, and a detailed analysis of traffic will be conducted at the intersections where most of the project-related trips are anticipated. For the transit analysis, the EIS will include a detailed analysis of any subway station, individual subway route, or bus line identified in the travel demand analysis where applicable CEQR technical manual thresholds are exceeded. Pedestrian analyses will be conducted along key walking routes between the development site and subway stations, bus stops, and other attractions in the study area. The EIS will also consider the safety of all roadway users, including pedestrians, cyclists, and vehicles. Various transportation agencies will be involved in the review of the transportation analysis, including City DOT and New York City Transit. Due to the length of the construction period, a detailed construction analysis will be included in the EIS. Quantitative assessments will be prepared for construction period transportation, air quality, and noise, as described in the draft scope of work. Because of the development site's proximity to natural resources, specifically Gravesend Bay, an assessment of the proposed development's potential to directly or indirectly affect this resource and associated vegetation, species, and habitats will be part of the EIS. The analysis will be conducted in coordination with the city's Department of Environmental Protection. The EIS will examine potential shadow impacts on sunlight-sensitive resources, which include natural resources, publicly accessible open space, and historic features that are sunlight-dependent. Where significant adverse impacts are identified, mitigation measures to reduce or eliminate the impacts to the fullest extent practicable will be developed and evaluated in a separate chapter of the EIS. Additionally, alternatives to the proposed development will be identified and evaluated in the EIS so that decision makers may consider whether alternatives exist that would minimize or avoid adverse environmental effects while still achieving the goals and objectives of the proposed development. Consistent with CEQR, a no-action alternative will also be considered. Thank you, and I will now turn it over to Jay to wrap up.
Hello, I'm Jay Valgora. I'm a licensed architect and a certified planner in the state of New York, as well as other states. I'm the founder and principal of Studio V Architecture. We're an architecture and planning firm. We've had the privilege to work on many, many important projects on the New York City waterfront, working closely with the public and with city planning to realize successful waterfront developments, public parks, to the benefit of the city. In this particular case, our great hope is to create a project that will actually be a showcase, resilient residential community that will be transformative for this area. We go to the next slide, please. So you've already been given background by both Rachels, and I'm going to speak a little bit about resiliency of the project. This is very important for us. So really, we think that this could be one of the most state-of-the-art resilient projects in New York City and really provide an example for how this could be done in the future. So we undertook a comprehensive, climate risk assessment of the entire site, working with Thornton Tomasetti, one of the best resiliency consultants in the city. And we really like to exceed the standards of what is normally done for resiliency and do something that we think will actually not only make this project resilient in the face of future climate change and storms, but even benefit the surrounding community. That's very important to us. So if we go to the next slide. So we did very detailed analysis using all of the city's own standards, including One New York, the city's waterfront revitalization program, the resiliency design guidelines. And I myself was appointed by the mayor and the city council to actually sit on the waterfront management advisory board and help draft the city's 10-year waterfront plan. So it's very important for us that this project really reflect the principles of advanced resiliency for the future of New York City. The next slide, please. The best practices that we could find. So when we looked at sea level rise, for example, we didn't use the normal resiliency design guidelines, which are shown here. We actually chose a range that exceeded those levels. And by using elevation and other components of our design in order to make sure that this will be one of the most resilient waterfront communities in New York, we have chosen higher standards of elevation, freeboard, and future climate change predictions in order to ensure that this project will set a new standard. The next slide, please. This shows how we're revising some of the grading. So one of the benefits of this site, which is largely open, as you saw earlier when Rachel showed it, it's really a toe pound today. And there are city streets here that have been planned but never constructed. And so working closely with city planning and Department of Transportation and also FDNY, we've really planned out all these streets to make this area accessible, to bring people to the waterfront, and to elevate these streets so that we can create new grading in order to make sure this whole community will remain, resilient in the face of future climate change. In addition, Calvert Vaux Park, interestingly, just to the south, is the highest area of elevated land in the entire Coney Island Peninsula, where we're doing a great deal of work both in Gravesend and Coney Island. And so this really will form kind of a bastion of resiliency and even a center for risk and recovery for the greater surrounding community because of some of the elements we're proposing, including the school and other pieces, which I'll speak to shortly. Next. So we're really looking at resilient building and structural design. This shows some of the details of elevation and how we've elected to do a design flood elevation that exceeds that of the city standards. And yet at the same point, we're working carefully to make sure that all of the buildings are fully accessible, that we create a whole series of public parks and waterfront parks to benefit the area, that we're creating public streets. So all of this has been incorporated into a detailed civil engineering design in conjunction with VHB to ensure resiliency, but accessibility. Next. We are incorporating green infrastructure throughout too. This is really important. And the site almost encompasses every possible condition of the waterfront. It has bulkheads, it has riprap edges that we're reinforcing. And most importantly, we're adding a tremendous amount of green infrastructure, including green areas, planted areas, rain gardens to allow filtration. We work closely with the DEC for years in order to make sure that we are creating appropriate permeable surfaces. So you've seen in the site plan that a huge amount of the site is actually planned to be green, public parks, publicly accessible, but also function as green infrastructure for the purpose of resiliency. Next slide. Here are some details of that. This street alone required negotiation between about 5 or 6 city agencies with competing interests, but we worked carefully with each of them in order to ensure that we could create streets, that we could create a resilient edge, that we could create green edges, that we could create beautiful public spaces to draw people to the waterfront, and that we could also have necessary emergency vehicles and access. So all of these different components were brought together with DOT, FDNY, DCP, Parks and Recreation, to make sure that we could really create a kind of a showcase resilient environment. Next. And these show some of the details of how we're handling water management, where we do stormwater in a combination of bioswales, permeable surfaces, and retention in order to ensure proper stormwater management, both qualitatively and quantitatively. Next. And then here you can see some of those resilient site solutions on the plan itself, where we're doing green infrastructure, elevated roadways, drainage systems, water management systems, elevation of individual buildings, including the townhouses. So all of these have been factored into our plans. The next slide, please. These are some illustrations that maybe bring it a little bit more to life, where you can see that green infrastructure can be beautiful. Our intent is to create wonderful public spaces, to take something that is currently closed off to the public, fenced off, not accessible, really a toe pound, and to make it vibrant public streets adjacent to a major public park, creating a constituency for that park and supporting that park. You can see this is an area where we have a little bit of retail between the different buildings, which would be great to support the kids that play in the park, and extensive green infrastructure and bioswales. Next, we're nearly done. This is a view of that entry garden that Rachel referred to earlier. This is over by Bay 43rd Street. Again, it was important to us right from the beginning that from the upland community, we wanted to attract people to bring them to the waterfront, which is currently closed off. So this is a freshwater restored wetland. We're working with MVVA, who is one of the best landscape architects in New York, if not the country and the world. They are the designers of Brooklyn Bridge Park. So no expense has been spared on behalf of our client to bring in one of the best landscape designers to create a very extensive network of public parks and open spaces that will be accessible to all. Next. And I think that's a good bridge into just community benefits because we take these very seriously. So we are in a housing crisis and we're proposing 1,457 new units. We're not really pushing anyone out. We're taking an area that is essentially parking for cars that is a tow lot and proposing to add over 1,400 new units of housing, including 438 of those will be affordable housing units. We're looking at significant waterfront parks, working with one of the best park designers in the world and doing resiliency planning for that, where we want to create a new model really for large scale waterfront planning, the right model in New York City. I note that the project was supported by the Waterfront Alliance, which is the preeminent nonprofit group representing the people of New York and providing access to their waterfronts and improvements to their waterfronts. And they chose this project to support it. And we're working with them to give it their WEDGE certification, Waterfront Edge Design Guidelines, as an excellent example of the right approach to waterfront design. We have a significant amount of open space, over 137,000. That's really over 3 acres of public space, very significant amount on this peninsula. We're looking at local retail, which will be great for kids that are playing in the adjacent soccer fields and ball fields to get a pizza or an ice cream. We're looking at some medical offices, which is something we need as our population grows older. We'd like to put the school, so we've factored it both ways, but we have offered the site for a public school for the city. We'll create connectivity to Calvert Vaux Park, and we'll be fixing all of these complicated streets that were, always mapped but never built, working out, sewer outfall and sewer infrastructure. And finally, in a very complex time, we think that this is a significant expression that we believe in the future of New York and that it's possible to create great communities and neighborhoods and to support and augment the communities we have and to help them in the future. So that's our presentation for you today. I'm going to hand it back to City Planning, and we look forward to hearing your comments and your thoughts as we hope to take this project to reality. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, applicant team. At this time, we will now move on to part 2 of the public scoping meeting, at which time we will receive testimony from elected officials, those speaking on behalf of the local community board and government agencies. Again, as a reminder, when it's your turn to speak, I'll call your name and you will be promoted to panelist. This will allow you to unmute your microphone and to turn on your camera if you wish to do so. There is a short period that it appears you're no longer in the meeting, but do not be alarmed. You will automatically rejoin the meeting as a panelist. If anyone has technical issues that prevent you from sharing your testimony, we'll pause and work on troubleshooting in the background. For assistance, you can dial into a dial-in participant hotline set up for today's meeting. You can dial any of the toll-free numbers shown at the top of the screen, including 877-853-5247. And when prompted for a meeting ID, dial 618-237-7396. And when prompted for a password, dial 1. Those instructions are shown at the bottom of this screen in red. We will now move on to speakers in this first group, at which point we will ask them to provide their testimony. So at this time, we will ask, our first speaker is Eddie Mark, speaking on behalf of Brooklyn Community Board 13. Eddie, you will be promoted to panelist in just a moment to provide your remarks.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Eddie Mark, and I'm the district manager of CB13. We have not met with our land use committee to discuss about this project, but we have seen this in the past, and our concern about this project is traffic, how it's going to come in and out. We realize that Bay 44th Street is the one that is a one-way traffic going into it from Shore Parkway and going out. It's going to Cropsey Avenue. We feel that it's 1,500 units. It's going to be a long, what do you call it, stretch of cars leaving the area. I don't know if the lights will be able to turn at the 30 seconds intervals, and how it will stop, traffic flowing from west to east along Shore Parkway. So, can anyone answer that, or?
Today's meeting is to hear testimony. We aren't providing responses.
Okay, and we will submit more testimonies on this with our land use committee. Thank you very much for extending it, the written comments to the 16th because of the holidays that fall in between September and October. So we will submit written testimonies to that effect also. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for being here and for providing testimony, and we look forward to the written comments. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Sanoff, also speaking on behalf of the local community board. Jeffrey Sanoff, you will be promoted to panelist in just a moment to provide your testimony. Looking to see if Jeffrey Sanoff is in our Zoom at the moment. Jeffrey Sanoff, are you in the Zoom as a panelist or as an attendee at the moment? All right, we are not seeing Jeffrey Sanoff in our Zoom room, so we are going to move on. But Jeffrey, if you are in the room, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom to indicate your presence. Okay, let's promote the speaker with raised hand.
Hello?
Hi, welcome. Can you state your
Okay.
name for the record?
Yeah. My name is Jeff Sanoff. I'm chairperson currently of CB13, and I appreciate the scoping meeting. First, I'd like to know if we can get this slide presentation sent to the district manager's office so we can present it at the land use committee. Now, I want to go further into the traffic nightmare that I call it. You're building schools, you're building retail space, you're building a community center, you're building a marina for tenants, you're building medical offices. Where is everybody going to park? I know you're building some facilities for the tenants, but where did, if you have to go to the medical office, where are you going to park there? Secondly, on the streets that will be coming up, will public transportation, the MTA public bus transportation, be located at the projects so people can take buses to the train stations? Because not everybody can walk 15 minutes, especially teachers, to go to the school. The teachers are going to have to drive or take public transportation, so they need a bus service into the community. Secondly, or thirdly, we're an environmental justice community, okay? And we have issues with children with asthma and other pulmonary conditions for the young people and senior citizens. We're a NORC community, natural occurring retirement community. So I would like that to be part of your public scoping comment, my public scoping comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here and providing your testimony regarding the slides. I will note that the recording of this meeting will be on our YouTube page, and our borough office can follow up regarding materials.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your testimony and for being here. At this time, those are the registered speakers in group 2 of this public scoping meeting. So that's elected officials, those speaking on behalf of the local community board and government agencies. So at this time, we will move on to part 3 of the public scoping meeting, where members of the general public are invited to speak for up to 3 minutes and will speak in the order in which they registered. So a 3-minute time tracker will display on the screen when you begin your testimony. Again, when it is your turn to speak, your name will be called and you will be promoted to panelist, which will allow you to unmute your microphone and the ability to turn on your camera if you wish to do so. Again, there is a short period that appears you're no longer in the meeting, but you will automatically rejoin as a panelist. Please remember that after your 3 minutes have passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks. And as noted before, 5 minutes are allotted to those using any sort of interpreter. If speakers do experience technical issues, again, we'll pause and try to troubleshoot in the background and move on to our next speaker. Okay, so we will move on to speakers in the order in which they registered, starting with Hannah Glickman. Hannah Glickman, you are our next speaker. We will promote you to panelist for the opportunity to provide your remarks.
Hello, thank you. I have no comment at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Our next speaker is Ida Sanoff. Ida Sanoff, you will be our next speaker. We will promote you to panelist in just a moment, and you will be provided the opportunity to provide your remarks.
Okay, I guess you hear me. Great.
Yes, welcome.
You're saying this is a resilient project. I fail to understand how construction of a new combined sewer outfall that will dispense more sewage into Graves and Bay is a resilient project. Secondly, even though your project will be quote unquote resilient, if this is a mandatory evacuation area, which we are all in, your residents will be forced to evacuate. And there are currently not enough shelter beds in the area. In addition, the areas north and south of you severely flooded during Sandy and in other storms. So your residents are going to be in the same shape as the rest of us that had no access to food, medical care, or anything. Next, you're next to Calvert Vokes Park, which is the most environmentally sensitive area anywhere near here. We get more bird species there than Central Park does. We've had birds there from Africa. The area in your scoping that you call a drainage area, it's actually a culvert, and it's the only freshwater wetland anywhere near here. So we're very, very concerned about the impacts to Calvert Vokes Park. and especially, bird migrations. Lastly, the habitat, so-called open space habitat at BJ's is horrible. Okay, if you're doing open space, we need far more of it, and we need something that resembles habitat, not just isolated trees and some grassy areas. And last but not least, I don't know how anybody's going to get down that service road. With the garbage trucks, you can't turn down Bay Parkway as it is. You got BJ's, you got the garbage trucks, you hit Cropsey, which is always backed up. The Belt Parkway is bumper to bumper at 6 o'clock every morning in both directions. So you'd better have a very good traffic study, including in the summer when there's all the traffic going to Coney Island down the service road because they can't get down the Belt, as well as people taking their kids to adventurers. So we really, really need to see a traffic study here done in the summer. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for raising these issues and providing your testimony. Excellent. Our next speaker is Vincent Jenkins, who will be using interpretation ASL services. Vincent Jenkins, you are our next speaker. We can have our interpreter unmute so that the rest of our attendees are able to hear the testimony. Thank you.
Hold on 1 second. The interpreter has to spotlight him because he's very small on the screen. 1 second. Hold on, sir. Okay, I can see you. Go ahead. Thank you, sir.
Oh,
Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Good afternoon to all, everybody in Brooklyn. Today, my name is Vincent K. Jenkins, and I run for the Community Council Department, District 2 from Manhattan. And why I'm here, what's up? I strongly support LSGD to work with other community centers in Brooklyn and to work with the community board in Brooklyn, meaning I'm really very concerned about the improvements, the resiliency, the environment, third, the transportation, fourth, the schools, all of those issues. From the federal funding, from the state funding, from the community funding, and I want to vote to make sure that we encourage everyone on this hot issue. We want to be respected by everybody in our agency. We want everything to be correct. And I'm hoping that will be included, it'll be inclusionary in that community, in the planning department. And I just wanted to say that the community department and the federal and state taxes are paying for the LGSD and for the framework and the groundwork that we're working together. But I'm hoping that everyone knows that we have to trust. We have to trust the land for the building. It's very valuable. We have to preserve it. We have to preserve that building, the new building. And I feel that that should be part of the picture. But my goal, my point is that all around here in Brooklyn, we have to have better modern improvements, and we have to add I'm sorry, DA. Discretionary for deaf and hard of hearing people and people who are blind and who are auditorily handicapped, all the people who are disabled, everybody in the DA community to in the improvements. Everybody has to be safe in the community planning. We need safety. And my own group, we're focused on independency, and we're focused on working with my topic is safety and affordability. So we have to, that's a requirement. Affordability for the rent, for the schools, for home, residential areas, for storefronts, the panoply, everything has to be safe. And we have to have less of the licensure provided in Brooklyn. We have to stand up for these services, for the activity. That's what I vote for. And when we're beginning, the infrastructure is a good start for the building. So we have to watch out because the time is starting if they start building. But when the point is that we have to support part of it and what's important. But my preference is that there should be high support for a bill for safety and affordability for the LSGD. Thank you so much for letting me talk about this hot topic and giving you my viewpoint and my perspective. Thank you. And I love your help, and thanks and goodbye and have a good day. Have a good day. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much for
That's it.
providing your testimony today.
Yes, I'm done. I'm done. All done. My discussion. I'm done.
Okay. Thank you very much. We will move on to our next speaker, and extra thanks to our ASL interpreter there. Our next speaker is Lucia Niznik, and apologies if I am mispronouncing your name. Feel free to correct me as you are promoted to panelist, and you are now able to provide your testimony for us today. Lucia Niznik, we will promote you to panelist now.
Thank you, but I have no comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right. At this time, we have heard from all speakers who have completed our registration process. So at this time, we will take a 5-minute recess to allow anyone who wishes to speak, who may have been viewing the YouTube or not able to register yet, to have an opportunity to do so. So please follow the directions on the computer screen now. If you do need assistance, feel free to dial any of the toll-free numbers shown at the top of the screen and the meeting ID shown at the bottom of the screen, 618-237-7396. Press pound to skip the participant ID, and the password is 1. We will now take a 5-minute recess, so we will be back here at 3:02 p.m. To hear from any new speakers who have registered during this recess. Thank you for your patience, and we will see you all in a few minutes. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back. We are reconvening the remote public scoping meeting for the Westshore rezoning large-scale general development, or LSGD proposal. Again, the city's environmental quality review number, or CEQR number, is 26DCP012K. My name is Stephanie Shalou, Director of the New York City Department of City Planning's Environmental Assessment and Review Division. We are currently on part 3 of the public scoping meeting, where members of the public are invited to speak for up to 3 minutes. And we were on a brief recess to allow anyone who may not have had the opportunity to register to speak at the beginning of the meeting to have a chance to do so, or if anyone was experiencing technical difficulties. At this time, we did not receive any additional speakers, nor has anyone else indicated that they wish to provide testimony at this time. Is there anyone else present who has not had an opportunity to provide testimony who wishes to do so? All right, hearing none, we will move to close the public scoping meeting. Again, if anyone had challenges or was not able to provide testimony during our meeting today, please recall that we do welcome written testimony and give that the same consideration and attention as we do comments provided live during this meeting today. Again, you can email these to us or mail them to us hard copy at the addresses shown on the screen here. Email address is 26DCP012K_DL@planning.nyc.gov, or mailed to us at the Department of City Planning, 31st floor, 120 Broadway, New York, New York, 10271. And again, these comments will be considered through Thursday, October 16th, 2025 by 5 p.m. Thank you all for participating in this meeting today. We really appreciate the thoughtful testimony. The time is approximately 3:04 p.m. and this public scoping meeting is now closed. Thank you all. Enjoy your afternoon.